we just going to talk about like gear?
Okay, so
We don't know what we're talking about.
I'm going to lead this one because I am just like you. I'm not familiar with the trip that these guys are going to lead and talk about. So all of my questions are coming from a place that you might have the same questions. I'm just not familiar with this trip that you guys are doing to Espiritu Santo. Is that correct?
Oh, we've started the podcast?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going, yeah, we're
Luke, always ready and prepared. Absolutely.
yeah, we're going on a saltwater trip.
We are going on a saltwater trip. These gentlemen
Yeah.
are going on a saltwater trip. They will be hosting. Let's start there. What can I expect as far as accommodations? Are you sleeping in a grass hut on the beach? Are you in a hotel? Like what?
So the lodge has rooms. Some are upstairs, some are downstairs, but they're all in like a single building.
And
2 people per room.
2 people
Yes.
per room. And then does
Air conditioning.
air conditioning? Okay, that's great.
Yep.
How close are you to where you're going to be fit? How close is the lodge?
So one of the reasons I picked this destination, and we're going to Tail Inn, which is in ESB, Mexico, is that the guides pull the boats right up in front of the lodge.
Oh, wow,
so
that's super cool.
Yeah, you can, where you're having drinks and dining, you're kind of on the beach looking at the water, and they pull the boats right up. Right there. And so, and one nice thing about that is, if Luke sleeps in and, isn't ready, I can still, I'm ready and my fishing partner's ready, that we can go
can
and I
go.
don't have to wait for him.
Yeah,
so
that
like,
is awesome.
I mean, a common thing at a lot of saltwater lodges is like, okay, all 10 of you load up into the van and then you go to the boats.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's fine, but it's a little rough if not everyone's on the same
Sure.
schedule. So they pull the boats right up, and when you and your guide are ready to rock, you go.
Wow, that's super cool. That sounds really fun. I'm assuming the accommodation includes food. What's the food like? Like what could I expect there?
I don't know. It looks really good.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So
Not sure.
to be determined.
TBD.
I do know that the lodge manager is like a professional fisherman, like commercial fisherman, and so I think lots of good seafood.
Yeah. I mean, I have not been on any lodge trip ever where the food was not
Amazing.
pretty good. Yeah, I mean, like it was good. Like,
Yeah.
I was very happy. So
Cool.
But for me, I care less about those things. You got.
Well,
you
this
It's
is-
not.
this
It's
is why
not.
he's
I was
running
going to
the
say it's
podcast.
not about you, Luke.
Yeah.
just go to the fish.
These are the important questions.
Yeah. So yeah. No, I think the food on the informational sheet, it looked like it's in Mexico, man. Like Mexican food's
I'm.
good.
Hey, I'm new.
Yeah.
I'm new to this, so
Yeah.
it sounds really cool. I mean, it just the boats being up on the beach alone and being like, okay.
Yeah.
I remember one time when I was working in my other career, I got put up on Whistler, and stepped out my door and stepped onto the chairlift. It
Yeah.
kind of sounds like
Right.
that, right?
There you go.
That's super cool. Okay, but let's talk a little bit more about the fish. Again, I'm a neophyte here. I'm a novice. I've never been there. I don't know anything about the saltwater fishing, which is totally accurate. What are we chasing? What skills do I need? Is gear provided? Am I going to get seasick?
No, that's
Help
actually
me
a good
out,
question.
because I get
Yeah.
miserably seasick.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So I don't want to go down there and
And be miserable.
you'd be miserable.
All right, I'll touch on that and what the gear that's provided, and you can kind
Yeah.
of talk about the fish. So there's not like a fly shop on site at the lodge. So, this is a destination that's kind of somewhat remote. So each angler is expected to bring their own rods, reels, lines, and we can get into specifics on that momentarily. But and terminal tackle, so flies. So like you can go to a fly shop and get like a Yucatan saltwater fly assortment. That would be a really good place to start. It's gonna be because it's gonna have flies for multiple species. That would be a great place to start. But then you're gonna need leaders and tippet, and so like generally like saltwater mono tippet or fluoro, whatever you prefer. Size like 8 pound, 10 pound, 12, 16. That covers a lot of bases. Bonefish leaders and permit leaders, which are like 10-foot leaders tapered for bonefish, like to 10-pound test for permit to maybe 16-pound. And there might be times when you're waiting here and your guide's not right on your shoulder. You're going to want to have tools like to cut your line, to tie knots and stuff like that, release a fish.
Okay.
So you need to be a kind of self-contained,
somewhat independent
angler. Yeah, because I mean it's the type of place where they just don't have this stuff on hand.
Okay.
And so yeah, you need to bring gear, and then you don't need to worry about getting seasick. Now
that's good.
Occasionally, another reason I chose this destination was because they do not do like really long runs to where, like in the boats, to where you fish.
Yeah.
You're not driving for an hour to get to the flats.
Right.
Which is, we've been in places like that.
Yes.
It's like, well, wake me up in an hour.
Yeah.
That's a long boat ride too.
And the weather's rarely good when we go anywhere.
Yeah.
So like then it's like you're bashing.
But it's going to be good this
We're
time.
not going together.
Yes.
I'm done. I'm done with this trip.
That's why I wasn't going with you.
We'll see who.
Yeah, we'll see.
So the short runs in the boat, like the longest drive they say they do is like 25 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty reasonable.
And that's just kind of hauling ass over shallow water, typically not in swells. Like I barf if I get out in swells. Like I do not like that kind of boating experience.
Yeah.
And so I don't go places where that happens.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. Back to the gear. So you mentioned I need to have my own rod and outfit. Floating line, sinking line?
Great question. So the nice thing is you can use floating lines for everything.
Okay.
And I mean, sometimes like for some of the tarpon fishing, there are some specialized tarpon lines that maybe have a 10-foot clear sink tip at the end or whatever.
Okay.
But at this destination, I mean, if you bring an 8-weight, a 9-weight, and a 10-weight, you've got your bases covered.
Okay.
Floating lines. And I mean, the selection of saltwater lines you see, like for any manufacturer, somewhat bewildering. Like there's a lot of options, but you can kind of go with an all-purpose saltwater floating line just to match the size of your rod. But you'll see like special ones for bonefish, like a bonefish line and a permit line. And so I'd say, as a novice, just getting kind of an all-purpose saltwater line is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, flats lines.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And so big, nice reels with lots of backing, especially, if we're going for the tarpon and permit, they can pull a lot of line off. You definitely don't want to see the end of your backing go away and then it goes bing.
Yeah, that's not.
That's
not what you want.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, I experienced something close to that on the Skeena this year. It was heartbreaking, but that's another story. Just out of curiosity, 3 rods. Let's say I have
you
one.
only have 2 arms, so 3 rods.
Exactly. Let's say I have a 9-weight or I just have an 8-weight. Can it still go? Or?
Yeah. So, but
you want to have 2 rods.
You want to have at least 2.
At least 2.
Yeah. I mean, if you break, my last trip, I borrowed my 9-weight to a Confluence guide. Won't say his name. And he hooked a shark, and the tip broke. It wasn't. He didn't do anything wrong, but
He probably did. But
no, I believe in him. But yeah, the tip broke, and so if I only had one 9-weight, I was
you've been out of luck.
Yeah, so I mean, like what I generally do, I generally bring 2 8-weights, a 9-weight, and a 10-weight.
Okay.
I generally just.
So you really want to be prepared.
Yeah, I think
2 rods would get it done.
You could totally do it 2 rods. Absolutely.
And the heavier rod is that for the tarpon?
Yeah, 10-weight would be for the tarpon and possibly the permit if it's a very big permit.
I don't know. I mean, or just horrible conditions, maybe like a lot of wind.
When we did one thing that worked out well for us, when we spent a day walking around the flats, is we actually had we both had 8 weights that were ready to go for bonefish, and then we had a 9 weight that we set up for whatever else. So we had we put a steel leader on it for one, I think for barracuda and
sharks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we basically we did the whole dorky, put the rod on the sides, trying to cast. It was dorky. And then I was like, hey, the guy's not doing anything. Hold it.
Useful.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you could totally do it with 2 rods.
Yeah,
for sure.
Where, if you're paired up with another angler in the boat, which is typically the case.
Yeah.
You can kind of divide and conquer, and you could have, if you don't mind fishing each other's gear, you could have a 9 weight for permit with a crab imitation or something like that. A couple bonefish rods, then a shark barracuda rod or a tarpon rod, just because when you're in the boat and you're paired up with another angler, you're not both fishing at the same time, so you're taking turns.
Okay.
So with 4 rods and 2 people, you could have your bases covered and not have to re-rig something really fast. Because you could get let's maybe break it down by species. So the bonefish, that's a 8 weight. You could do it with a 7 weight. 8 weight just makes it easy. 7 weight would work great for smaller bonefish and when the conditions are really perfect, right? But let's just say the 8 weight's a bonefish rod. But if you bumped into an area where there were some baby tarpon, if they were smaller, you wouldn't be totally outclassed to fish to it with that 8 weight. But you'd have to kind of quickly redo the leader, just a heavier leader.
Sure.
So your 9 weight could be a baby tarpon rod, or it could be, just a permit leader and a permit fly, or a leader and some hard bite, or wire leader.
Shock tippet type thing.
Well, I was thinking for the barracudas and sharks, some wire
Steel.
leader.
Yeah. Wire. Yeah.
But the 10 weight also would be good for that. And the 10 weight would be good for baby and medium tarpon. At more later in the summer, like in May, they start to have adult tarpon, like the huge ones around at this locale. Those won't be around when we're there in March. But at that time of year, some people would even bring more like a 12 weight.
Wow.
For the big.
Yeah, for a 100-pound tarpon, So.
And you'd be catching that on the flat, you'd be waiting and
no,
or would that
typically
be
from the boat?
That would be from the boat.
I've been in a fair number of places where I've caught baby tarpon while waiting. Usually it's a little deeper, like when we're waiting for bonefish. Most of the time it's this deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes it's that deep, but usually
which is this deep on me.
So, and with permit, you could be waiting or fishing from the boat. With the big tarpon, they're almost always out in deeper flats where, they might be in 3 or 4 feet of water. And so you're fishing from the boat.
So it sounds like this is predominantly sight fishing, right? You're really targeting fish.
Fishing.
That's super cool. That's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
fun.
I think that's the draw.
That's the part of what makes saltwater fly fishing so fun.
Yeah.
As it's not. Obviously with trout fishing, you can do this
Sure.
too when you're casting to a rising fish or whatever. But the whole entire day, for the most part, is you trying
You're really
to find fish.
trying to.
Yeah, it's whether
it
you're
out.
walking or if you're in the boat and you have a guide who's pulling you along. Everybody's eyes are open. You're scanning the horizon, looking for tails.
That's super fun. It's like hunting.
Nervous
a little
water.
bit.
Yeah.
It's like hunting fish.
It's 100% hunting.
So I'm envisioning, correct me if I'm wrong, sandy, white, pure, flat, and then this aqua green, blue, clear, beautiful water. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, that's a really great question. Because sometimes it's
awesome.
like that. And some of the flats are grassy. And so it's more like a olive color. It just really depends on where you go. Some places the bonefish change color a lot depending on where you go because they're matching that environment, just like trout do in a stream, So, in Hawaii, the bonefish are kind of this cool turquoise color because that's the color of the bottom. And in some places, they are just white, they're, on those white sand flats. And usually they're a little darker with kind kind of some darker patches on their back. That's just part of their camo. But so, yeah, the water's usually clear. If ideally you have not too much wind, but some. So when there's no wind, then the surface is totally flat and the fish can really see you, and it can be very difficult, right? So you hope that you at least have sun. Sun and wind is fine. Even high wind, you can still do well. Sun or no sun and wind is kind of tough.
Yeah.
And when there's no sun, if it's calm, then oftentimes you can still see fish tailing. And you can see nervous water. And so it's still more doable, but...
yeah, and the nervous water thing, so when I first heard that, I was like, I have no idea what that is. But it's our first trip we went on, the weather was terrible. Terrible. I think it was we fished for 6 days, and it was sunny for 1 day in the last day.
Yeah.
So we had 5 days
2 decent days.
Yeah, it was like 5 days of just cloudy, and so you can't see, the fish because it's just there's no sun. But the nervous water thing is we would be sitting there on the flats, and you'd see like water kind of moving, almost like a little ripple coming towards you, and it's like, oh, what's that? It's it's these bonefish. It's these bonefish making their way towards you, and they're just feeding on shrimp and crabs or whatever, and so you just kind of wait until they come, close enough. And so that we caught a lot of bonefish that way. But the last day that it was sunny, because I think the day it was sunny for you guys were on the other side. We had bad weather the whole time except for the last day. The last day I was like, it was like so different because when the sun was out, all of a sudden it was like, there's 10 million bonefish. That's what it felt like. I was like, they're everywhere,
Right.
And before that, we were like really working hard because we just couldn't see them. So that sun is such a crucial part of the experience, for getting it done, I guess, when it comes to that. So you definitely want to have a good pair of Polaroids, because as soon as you put those Polaroids on, it's like, it's crazy how clear the water is. You can see these fish. So.
All right. So I've been fishing my whole life, right? I know better than to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Oh, good.
So it sounds like there's a lot of species and a fair number of fish, right? Like, is there a good chance that I'm going to, connect with one or two of these species while I'm down there, or like kind of what's
Well, I'm not so sure about.
Fair enough. All right.
But everybody else. Yeah. I was going to say one thing. My observation about the guides, because, we have guides there, in the same way that we, as guides have tricks. Yeah. Right. I mean, everybody has, like, you've got clients that'll come on that might be brand new, and it's going to be tough.
Right.
And so there's little things that you'll do to make it, to make it a successful day. My observation with those guys down there is they have the same thing. Like, right. They want us to catch fish. Sure. They're motivated to put fish in the boat.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like crazy how I was shocked both times about how many fish were at certain flats. It was like, I mean, I've never seen this. There was this one, actually I was with Randy. Randy and I did a day together, and we went back into this like incoming, there was like a little creek coming in.
Yeah.
And the tide was beginning to, I think the tide was going out. So all these bonefish were pushing out, and there were like hundreds and hundreds of bonefish all in the mangroves coming out. And it was like, we almost couldn't fish because we were just like overwhelmed.
You were just marveling the whole time.
There was so many fish, Now, there are also other times, like when you were walking around, where you're like, fish. Are there fish around here?
Like in this country?
Yeah, are there any? So
it's fishing.
It's fishing.
It's fishing.
Yeah.
Two things of note on that topic. So some people, so the normal situation is you share a room and you share a guide, and that's your typical double occupancy situation, right?
Sure.
Some people, don't like to share the boat, or just want to give themselves more opportunities. So you can pay extra to go as... Cool. You could still share a room, but have the boat to yourself.
Right.
That is an option. It just costs more, but that would guarantee you're not sitting while your partner's
Right.
screwing up all the good opportunities.
Why are you looking at me? First of all, I don't know why.
Yeah,
No reason. No reason in
That was
particular.
rude.
No reason in
uncalled
particular.
for.
Yeah, that was like crossing the line. But yeah, no, I what was kind of cool about, so I mean, there's obviously a benefit to having a boat all to yourself, but
Yeah.
It's more fun to go.
it is
to
way
share
more
the
fun.
boat.
It's way more fun to go with
Yeah.
somebody, with a friend, but also too, it's nice having the break. I really, because it's amazing how
It's
exhausting.
intense.
Yeah, it's because it's so intense. I mean, you're literally like flying in your hand, your rod, and you're standing there at the front, trying to make sure to stand there, or if you're walking
Yeah.
and you're just so intently like hunting and staring.
Yeah.
What I found, what worked really well for me, I felt like we got into a rhythm. We would just do 30-minute shifts, and it was like perfect. Like 30 minutes, I could stay really focused, and then I got a 30-minute like,
Yeah.
Cool, but if I don't have a friend, I can still go.
You have friends, buddy.
I've got one or two.
You okay?
One right here.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you could either get paired up with a random stranger
Okay,
in the group,
yeah.
or
So
you could
it's
pay extra to just do
Okay,
the own boat. Yeah.
So going by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if there's
totally-
one person who's watching this who's like, hey, it
Yeah.
kind of sounds fun, I've never done it before, you'd be totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really. I mean, so sort of to pull everything together here, what do you find most exciting? What most enjoyable about this type of trip?
Well, I mean, the last two hosted trips I've done were really kind of focused on bonefish, which I love. I could do bone fishing all the time, and this time I wanted to do a more multi-species trip, and so in 6 full days of fishing, people that go on the trip are going to have a great shot at, casting to baby tarpon, hopefully casting to permit, bonefish, as much bonefish as you want. That's my experience. Getting back to the numbers thing and the notion that the guides have tricks. So typically
They have tricks.
in the Yucatan,
Yeah.
the guides can always take you somewhere where you will catch loads of bonefish.
This
Now,
is one of the tricks.
yes, but they might be trout size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they call them banana bones.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's not exactly sight fishing.
Yeah.
It might be like
Trick.
Yeah. It's like a magic trick. It's like there's a shimmering, like there's like a million bonefish right there, and all we can see is just some occasional flashing.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're in deeper water, and like all day long they could typically hook you up even on 30, 40 foot casts on these smaller bones.
Cool.
Now, but that's kind
not
of the
the way-
beginner
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's not their favorite thing to do.
Sure.
So
and it's like because I think it's a way that like, hey, if you're really struggling,
yeah, we go.
and then it's like, oh, okay, and then after that you go back to like the way you should do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go to the toilet bowl for a little while, right? And so, yes, you will catch fish if you go.
Cool.
And the rest of the time, I mean, they're looking around and they're looking. There might be a school of tiny bonefish over here, and they're like, and they're looking, and they're like, yeah, you might throw one over there just to
Right.
keep you busy for a little bit, but they're really looking for permit over
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big part of the guide program down there is they're always looking for all the different species. Some of
Grand Slam's kind of like a big part of the possibility.
So the Grand Slam it's the permit bonefish tarpon in one day, and so
pretty awesome.
this is one of the best places to go to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And usually, if that's really your goal, the hardest one to catch is always the permit, typically. And so sometimes if you catch a permit earlier in the day, then the guide is like going to like grab you and be like, we're going to get a Grand Slam today, and then you're going to go catch a little bonefish, and then you're going to find a baby tarpon. And
and then you go drink a beer. That's how it works.
Well, there's the Grand Slam of beers. I mean, right.
So what in your experiences, what appeals to you most? What do you find most exciting about this?
Yeah, I mean, the hunting part is very exciting. Also, too, I like having to throw the variety of short casts and long casts. It's cool, because we fish a lot, but we don't do 80 foot casts very often.
Right.
And if you do, you shouldn't be.
Right.
Your guide's yelling.
Yeah, you're like, don't do that,
Right.
So it's fun to be able to like go back to casting, double haul using things like that. But I really like the multi-species. I like in the Bahamas, that was the most exciting for me. Like the bonefish were really cool. They're awesome. I mean, it is wild how you'll hook a fish this big that will put you in your backing like nothing in 2 seconds, and it'll do like 3 or 4 times. It's wild.
Yeah.
Because then you see it, you're like, that's it. Like, it's 5 pounds. Yeah, it's like, it's crazy. But like the potential for, because the thing that's really interesting about the ocean, kind of going back to what you were saying about the different flats, like even in the different areas you'll be fishing in, there's like flats that are different, that have different characteristics. So like you'll have one flat that's that white sand, and then the flat right next to it will have like the
turtle grass.
The grass, and and it's a little bit deeper, and then you'll go to another one that's like mangroves kind of, and a little bit muddier. And so one day you might see a variety of different types of environments, and that's what's really cool about saltwater is that it is like, I mean, it's like going to space in some ways for me, because I just haven't been in the ocean a lot. So when I'm out there, I'm like, this is so unique and so different. It's the familiarity of we're still fly fishing, we're still trying to catch fish, but it's like totally different. And then the other animals you see, there are sharks that's pretty cool, but the turtles and there's we've seen dolphins out there.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's whales, further out sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
that's great.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It is exhilarating. That's the way that I would describe it, because it's like overload in a good way of all your senses. Like the water's warm, you're not freezing. Like I was on the Trinity, I was just staring at you. I was on the Trinity, I was guiding on Friday, and I thought I was gonna die. I was like,
This from the Alaskan,
dude. Yeah, I'm California now, man. But like, it's really cool, walking in water that's like bath.
Yeah,
You don't have to wear the rubber gloves.
Yeah, I don't have to put nitrile gloves on anymore. Yeah, so I think that's really cool. But I also think too, it is fun to have a week, the camaraderie of all the different people when you get back. Like everybody, every night, everybody's pumped.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, oh, you got to hear our story today. It's really fun sharing the stories and hearing the different, and then the personality of the different guides is cool too, because I think we normally rotate.
Yeah. So typically, in a group like this, you're gonna have a different guide every day.
Yeah.
Cool.
So like, it's cool because you're gonna have like one day with the young buck who's like, he's like, let's drive 400 miles.
Rail.
Yeah, we're gonna only try to catch 120, pound bonefish or whatever. But then you've got the OG vet guy who's like real quiet, who he knows more about bonefish or saltwater fishing in his PhD than everybody combined. It's cool because it's just real similar to like. I think it's interesting how it's very similar to our world of guiding too. It's in their culture, wherever you're at. So it's just fun to watch that, because it's like, at the end of the day, guides are the same.
Yeah.
They're all weird.
Yeah. But a lot of the saltwater guides are also like, they might also be like lobster fishermen, or I mean, they're usually
chicken farmers. We had some chicken farmers.
That's right. Awesome. Yeah, we did. So they're usually people with a lot of experience, and they're super fun to talk to, just about their world that they live in and all the different things that they do or have done.
Cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
How many, sort of to bring it all back together, so how many days are we looking at?
So it's a 7-day trip, so 6 days of fishing, 7 nights.
Okay. It's
Friday to Friday. And the logistics are nice and simple on this trip. There are direct flights into Tulum now. And so you just need to get yourself on one of these flights to Tulum, and then the lodge does everything from there.
Cool. So really cool guides that have diverse backgrounds. It sounds like an incredibly diverse number of species down there that you have the possibility to catch. Nice warm water, walking on flats, so you're not going to get seasick. And opportunities to potentially see some really cool wildlife, nice lodging with good food. Does that sort of sound like a good encapsulation?
And so I got 3 spots open: March 14th, till the 21st.
That's right.
You have 0 spots open
Right.
for your week. So if anybody's interested in going, hit up Andrew.
Yep.
And also, too, one thing I would say, I do think this would be helpful for anybody who is going. Start practicing casting.
Yes.
It is like my first trip. It was the most embarrassing thing. I literally go out and I can cast pretty good. I get out and I'm like water loading. I'm like on a lower stack, water loading.
Windshield wiper.
Yeah, and the guy was just like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I'm sorry. I would like to apologize for, but I hadn't really gone out and practiced. And so, like that day I was like, oh yeah, I have to get my
a little rusty.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so, go, and actually if you can go to a field that's windy, that would help you, just be prepared for that. But yeah, I think going out.
Go do some lawn casting, not water casting.
Yeah. Just go out and cast your 8-weight, cast your 9-weight. It'll help. It'll just help out. So
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited though. You're excited?
Oh yeah, I'm getting super excited.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited too now that I know a little bit more about it. Sounds like a really cool trip. Yeah. So contact Andrew and he'll give you any more details. I'm sure he can help you out if you have some questions. And Luke has 3 spots available.
3 spots.
Okay. Thanks so much, guys. We'll catch up with you soon.